Welcome to the webinar. Thanks for joining. So you see there are a few models within supply chain management. It's core, and another one. There are reference models. Some prioritize the flow of materials through different processes. Some prioritize the connection between different entities in the supply chain. And there's the flow approach, and there's the entity approach. At BRASI, we focus on the decision-making approach. What should be your decision-making priority when you are faced with a situation? Let's begin here. It's about me a little bit. I've been around for a few years and then worked with companies, global corporations, managing, producing and distributing engineering products, personal products, food, beverages, and pharmaceutical industry. So I have been fortunate to work with excellent people in my team, learn from them, and contributed to different processes, right from quality control to shop floor manufacturing and procurement, a lot of time in procurement, project management, and logistics, transportation, distribution, commodity buying. So I have worked with a lot of people. So 4C model is a strategic framework which attempts to align supply chain strategy, planning, and operations with the organization's vision and mission. So those who have taken the SysCom program or even other programs, we know that we start with a strategy, what is strategic focus, and it can change from time to time, period to period. If you are facing quality issues, that your focus goes to quality, but as an overriding concept, you want to choose to lead in price, your price competitions, your pricing models. For example, dollar stores, their strategy is pricing, cost. So the customers that go to dollar store, and any customer who goes to dollar store and to some boutique shops as well, when they go to dollar store, they expect lowest price and function quality. So if you are running dollar store business, which is big business, your strategic focus is cost and functional quality. However, if you're running a high quality prestige brand business, your focus is on quality. Nothing to be compromised. It's not just functional. It has all the bells and whistles and the best quality that you can secure, because your customer, when walks through your doors or goes to your website, they expect nothing but top quality. So that's your strategy. So that strategy, we have learned, drives your planning. Which vendor, what design features, right from engineering to procurement, what processes you want to have on the shop floor, and specification and tolerances, they're all driven by your strategy. So strategy drives planning, and the planning, of course, drives the operation. What do we do tomorrow, next week, next month, next year? Because planning defines the boundaries, how many plants you have, how many vendors you have, which warehouses you are dealing with, which transporters you have. So strategy is the first top level, planning the second level, and operations and technical planning, that is your third the level that actually creates your connection with your customers. So the four pillars are, what are the four pillars? And they're in that order. Customer service, top priority. Cash flow, second. Cost, third. And capacity, the last one. Now, the order does not mean that one is more important than the other, because you need cash flow, you need to control costs, you need capacity. The sequence is meant to identify what we need to secure first of all, in the sense of timing, right? Order, in the sense of order. So imagine customer service. If you fail to deliver today's orders, there won't be no cash. There won't be any cash flow tomorrow. So in order to stay in business, customer service must be the first priority. And it's just a function in a business, customer service, shipping, warehousing, sales, marketing. But the repercussion is right to the very top because cash flow drives your business. So customer service drives cash flow, which is the lifeblood of a company. Cash flow, the moment you have cash flow, you are in business, your routine cycle, and cost is the next best priority because you have to control cost for all kind of businesses, functional, mid quality, top quality, prestige brand. Cost is because you are in competition. You are not alone in the business, in the market. There is competition. So cost is your immediate next concern. And that leads to you to utilize tools such as Lean, Six Sigma, and many other tools that you will be using. Then capacity. Capacity is your ability to deliver customer service. Capacity is where you ship from, the warehouses, where you make the stuff, your factories, and your capability. Capacity and capability are two different things. How you can maneuver through different constraints. And the capacity goes back to customer service. So they go in a circle, but the priority order is customer service, cash flow, cost, and capacity. So this is the model. So if you follow these steps in proper sequence, and you set up the business that you have purpose, objectives, vision, and mission clearly defined and defined, not just defined, but also communicated, shared with your team, with your stakeholders, vendors. The more people you have on board, the better it's understood, the better it's implemented. Then the strategy. What is strategy to compete? It's price-based, quality-based, convenience-based, technology-based. So that is your main focus of your strategy. You can define that based on what you're making, what you're selling. Then you start planning around those lines because planning will need those guidelines, those directions. That's your planning. Once planning produces a plan like a marching orders, like a plan to produce next week, next month, etc., a schedule, that is taken by operations that they implement the plan, right? So the guidelines come from the bottom. Then you develop a strategy to differentiate yourself from your competition. When you hear the word strategy, immediately think about the word differentiation. Your strategy differentiates you from your other players also brands because we are selling dress shirts. You're not alone. There are other manufacturer brand, other brands. How do you make yourself distinct so the customer can identify and have a reason to come to buy your product? It's a quality, different styling, location, convenience, pricing, all that goes into the milieu, and you have a strategy. The strategy drive the planning. What do you do in terms of instructions how to make it, the operations implement. When you come to operations, then comes these questions. You have a situation, you have limited uh, constraint, let's say constraint on a certain product. So you can go back and increase capacity, but that won't help you in today's situation. You need to ship today or tomorrow, whenever the promised date is. So to keep the existing customers is more important than going for new customers. You always want new customers, definitely, but to serve the existing customer is your top priority. You want to make sure that you can ship on promised date. That's your that metric, OTS metric, on-time shipping and full quantity. So customer service, then you, in that order, go to cash flow. That gives you cash flow. You do your engineering, your improvements, keep costs under check, and then capacity, you improve capacity or to see if you have enough capacity, or if you're coming short, you're growing and your capacity becomes tight, then capacity is a big question because it's capital intensive. You may be, depending on the industry, if you are labor intensive, you may hire people, but again, you have to hire a full person, right? It can't fraction it. But if you are capital intensive, like plants, big oil refineries or sugar plant or glass or steel, cement, then there's a big investment. Even for batch manufacturing, and a piece of equipment may cost millions of dollars or millions of other currencies. So that capacity questions is a big question, and we approach top capacity fulfillment and reaching the full utilization. Then the question comes, do you want to wait until you get 20-30% overcapacity? Meanwhile, you take help from contract manufacturers, CMOs, contract manufacturing organizations, third-party manufacturers, providers, because they can be a good short-term solution for capacity questions, right? And then when the time comes, you can invest in internal capacity and invest in that when you have the confidence that the growth is going to stay there and you'll be able to utilize the new capacity over the gestation period or the life cycle. So the purpose of this model is it enables sustainable growth and long-term value creation. The idea is to be in business and continue growth, continue growing, and it keeps adding value. And it supports resilience. See, when you have that kind of clear model in front of you, you're not confused where to focus, where to prioritize, where to invest. You go in that order and brings discipline and stability even in uncertain environments. And in today's world, there's so much instability, so much disruption, so many new things happening. So we need to have a very firm and resolute discipline to go by. And this model helps you do that. By doing that, you also enhance your competitiveness and operational efficiency, because we are saying we are not losing sight of cost. We go right to the cost after cash flow, and that's where we invest, right? So become competitive and improve efficiencies. And this provides a structured approach to decision making. Like in decision making, you have a situation, for example, you have a constrained supply, the demand goes up, instantly there is some event or let's say a pandemic or epidemic in a certain area, and that drive the demand. Immediately they need more in a certain area. Now the inventory is there, but you have to see how to reallocate. Then you have to do the process called arbitration. You discuss with internal teams and your external partners and maybe regulatory governance, depending on what kind of product it is. It is public health. Definitely you'll have to be in compliance with the regulations. And if it is like commercial product, again, you'll have to see the different considerations, how you want to reallocate. It helps you. Again, you look at customer service first, and then that follow up from there. The four pillars are, as we discussed, customer service, in that order, cash flow, cost, and capacity. But we need to have a balance between these and not optimized in isolation. What that means is that if you businesses run on incentives, right, and especially in operations, departments, functions, they all have a target, and there are conflicts within a business. There are conflicting objectives. They seem to be conflicting, but actually they are all aligned with the corporate objective. Conflict meaning there's a marketing department and sales department, but their objective is to do the customer service at 100% level. For that, they would like to have every product available at all times. That's their objective. To do that, you may have to build huge inventories, and they might want to have even those products in stock which are not on the forecast, just in case somebody asks for it. So that's the desire, to be able to do customer service 100% level, and that's very good. That's the focus. However, from the cost perspective, if you do that, you may end up inventory that is way beyond your cash flow capacity, and your something that is sell just in case inventory. You don't want that. So, and then there is that's the objective of sales and marketing, to have everything available. But the conflicting objective from production is they are gauged they're gauged on cost. They're cost centers. So they have to be answerable to how much they're spending, what's the cost efficiency, and then we know the measure inventory holding cost and the inventory turns cost. So all those measures, they are held to accountability in terms of cost. That's very, very important. On the other hand, sales has to give the sales numbers. They will like to have every opportunity to sell, to be able to sell. Those two seem to be in conflict, but they're not. They are going to, for the same corporate mission, to be able to serve the customer and be competitive and also be efficient and proactive. And then you have the finance department. So they kind of guide both the departments who seem to be in conflict, but actually they're not. So that is so if you give incentive just to sell, hey, just we need the sale number and forget about cost, that be imbalanced. And you give incentives to production, just make whatever you can, regardless of cost, then that's also imbalanced. So a balanced approach is that you have to look at the overall picture, like we see in the lean and theory of constraint strategy or philosophy, that you don't look at isolation or local efficiencies. We look at the throughput of the system, how much you are making, how much you're buying, storing, making, and selling as a continuous stream. That's the concept of supply chain. So we're not looking at isolation, localized efficiencies, which can be counterproductive. If you recall the model that we study in theory of constraints, drum buffer rope DRB model, DBR model, drum buffer rope DBR. And the drum is your pace, is your churn. Example is if you are running an assembly plant, what is your takt time? How many minutes? After how many minutes each unit rolls out? And that's your drum, and the buffer is you must have not heaps of inventory, but enough inventory to enable continuous operations. And the rope is that's the signal. If you're running short, make more. Running too much, then slow down a little bit. So the DBR is a very important concept. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that. So that's what DBR does for us. So the tools that we learn in our study at BRASI, they are very, very applied, practical tools to help us continue producing and meeting customer service requirements. Top priority customer service. Focus is customer service satisfaction and loyalty. Key elements that we measure are on-time delivery, product service quality, and responsiveness. In responsiveness, we not just measure the on-time delivery, but we also take note of the customer requirement, desire, wishes, that maybe the system is not able to fulfill today, but that's a message that we cannot ignore. Just because we cannot do it today doesn't mean that we should not strive to do it. For example, if your lead time, the stated lead time is 7 days from the order receipt to order delivery, and you hear this buzz, most customers are asking for 3-day, 5-day, 4-day delivery, something is changing in the market. Either they're getting it somewhere else or their needs have changed. So if their needs have changed, they will find a way to get that. That's what drives the supply chain efficiency. So you need to start noting that market feedback, the buzz, and start working. Can we meet that requirement? That's your responsiveness, right? And it drives revenue generation on an ongoing basis for the future. And in market reputation, if you are the one that has the shortest lead time and the best quality, yeah, you are the talk of the town. People know about you. And then why it is first? Of course, we know that you need cash flow, without which business cannot perform. So if you have 2 lakhs payment terms, then you're using more of the borrowed money, high leveraged. You're paying the interest cost, and that cuts into your profit. So your own cash flow, that is very important. Your cash flow coming from the customers is of course preferable than cash flow coming from your borrowed or leveraged money, because then you have to pay for that. And the cash flow itself, it ensures liquidity, so you are not under in the risk of going under. And working capital efficiency, all those ratios that we discuss in finance, and very important, financial stability. Whenever you go for vendor selection, one of the key considerations is how stable is the vendor financially, because you don't want to go into contract and then find out that they disappear or they have difficulty, they can't produce, they cannot supply, and affecting your own operations because there is some issue with them financially. So financial stability, besides technical ability and performance and capability, all that, this is very important to have financial stability and liquidity. And you want to manage that through efficient working capital management, inventory turnover, like I mentioned, very important. How many cycles of inventory you manage within the year. And of course, that's industry based. Your benchmark group will be your peer group. If you are in a garments industry, let's say it has 12 turns in a year, and the average, if you're doing 13, you are very good, beating the industry, you are more competitive. If you're doing 8 only or 9 only, that's a matter of concern. That affects your cash flow, very important. And received payables optimization. Receivables are the term that you set with your clients, your customers. If you're 2 lakhs and they're taking a lot of time to pay you back, that affects your cash flow. And your payables, if you're buying stuff, services, raw materials, equipment, supplies, and you have to pay upfront, that creates a gap between receivables and payables. If you can manage to balance that, say, let's say 1 week payable, 1 week receivable, that they know it only have 1 week gap. But if you can manage to get advance payments from customers in that business, like some businesses like equipment, hardware, plants, capital equipment, they work on advances. So then you may be working with negative working capital requirement. You don't need capital from anywhere. Your own capital paid from your customers feeds the business. So there has to be balance, right? And that cash flow management ensures you can continue with operations. You are able to pay your bills, your salaries, your requirements, license fees, etc., and you can invest in the future. Efficiency, very important. And that our focus in our module 4 in Syscom is totally on how to improve. That's why it's called growing. The module 4 is called grow. So we have planning module, the first one, all about planning, how to set the business. Then we have operations, all of these things, how to make, how to deliver, how to ship, how to store. So planning, and the second one is organization, how to organize supply chains, the channels. Third is the operations, and fourth is the growing part of the business, where we learn about the tools, Lean, Six Sigma, TOC, and so forth. That's where we focus on. So cost efficiency, how do you know that your cost is good, bad, or worse? To compare with competition, it's very difficult to get cost information or intelligence from the competition, because this is almost like a confidential secret. So you have to find different ways to analyze, to assess, and prorate, check the market, and see what could be their cost. See, the prices is common knowledge. You can walk into a store and look at different competitors' prices. This brand is selling the drink at $1, other one is $1.25. You see the differentiation, why they can charge a little bit more brand equity, quality, etc., representation. But to find the cost is the real challenge. So then you can see this is the price and what could be the cost, what's the spread, what's the margin for your competition, so you can at least know where you are standing, and is your margin spread really good enough, or you should be improving it. That's your benchmarking approach. Otherwise, generally speaking, you should be just working at zero cost optimization, challenge every cost in procurement. And procurement, as we know, has a huge reserve for cost saving. That's why it's called low-hanging fruit. each time you have a fresh look at procurement, you find something to save. Cost cut, let's say if you haven't done it for a long time, you will find huge savings sitting there for you to 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 take. 20-30% is not uncommon, trust me. And then you do the second round, maybe 6 months, a year later, you may not get 30%, but it's still there, the 5-10%, maybe 2%, but that's the money, right? The money you saved when buying is cash. It shows up right into your bottom line and your profits, and can be a good percentage of your net margin, because net margins are like how much, 10-15%. If you save 2% on your procurement, you're increasing your net margin by, let's say, 20%. That's the beauty of that. And then look at the total cost of ownership. You buy a material at low price, but lo and behold, it goes into use in the shop floor and creates more scrap, more difficulty setup, more difficulty, and not quality in the final product. There you lose money. So the price tag is not the only measure. It's the overall life cycle of the product through its use, utilization, scrap, appearance, ease of use, etc., ease of dispensation, everything else. So it includes procurement costs, not just the cost of the material itself, but how do you procure? Are you set up properly? Are you organized properly? Are you buying things that you should be buying centrally? You're buying locally and losing the possible or potential leverage by adding the volume to by combining the volumes across the board, or you're buying locally two things that you can buy globally, or you can buy globally things that you should be buying locally actually, because they can make it more efficient purchases. So it depends on what kind of item you're talking about. And logistics, very important. If you do not think about the routes and the hubs and the locations, that's where we use our location model, where you have a model in Excel. These are all applied and ready to use model that we teach in BRASI. At BRASI, you can plug in the information, how many vendors it's coming from to the plant, what are the current locations, was the tonnage coming, and the distances, and the cost per ton mile or per kilometer ton. And plug in the numbers and you run the model and you see, okay, our plant should actually be located elsewhere, save on cost. So we do all of the kind of stuff. And it also includes warehousing and operations. So the idea is to, while maintaining quality, we're not compromising quality. While doing that, we are becoming more efficient and reduce costs. And that's always possible. In fact, sometimes, you gain in quality by saving cost. And you go hand in hand, because imagine if your inventory turns are low, meaning that you're maintaining inventory, keeping inventory for long periods in the warehouse, you're losing quality. Materials, as it sits more, it loses quality because of humidity, moisture, damages, just moving around, sitting there collecting dust, or sometimes becoming out of use. The model changed, the part number changed. So when you do efficiencies, do cost cutting, you improve quality, because now the material is flowing through at a higher speed. You got fresh materials and better quality. That's just an example. And it has an impact on profitability and competitiveness, because the more profitable you are internally, the more you can invest in your marketing and your product development, more features, and you become more competitive. Capacity, very important question in supply chain, because capacity is what lets you buy, make, and sell, right? Scalable capacity, depending on the nature of your machinery products you want to have, depending on how many plants you have, or what's your technology. If you want to have one machine which does everything, you will be spending time on setting up the machine each time you have a new product. Or you want to have dedicated line which for every product, then you're very efficient, but you also have more capacity. So capacity utilization is a very, very challenging question. A lot of time in supply chain is spent on scheduling around capacity, because many companies, they start with a good capacity profile, but over time as business grow, capacity becomes constrained, and that's where the challenge of scheduling and realigning, making the best use of it, and then we use this SMED approach, single minute exchange of dies, where you cut down on setup costs and good maintenance and all that. By the time comes when you really need more capacity, need more machines. At that time, you look around and see what machines you want to buy, more um, single feature or more flexible. Again, there's a trade-off between setup times and continuous production. So that's a big question comes up every now and then. That's why the business of contract manufacturing, CMO, is flourishing, because you don't have a brand, you set up machines and equipment to do something. Like, for example, footwear industry, you may not want to own a brand, but you are very good at making shoes at a very good quality and low price. So the brand owners, they don't need to have their own plants. They own the brand, they do the marketing, the brand development, and specifications, quality, research, etc., and they get the shoes made by you. And you're very good at making shoes. Don't need the brand. You just put the label on. So you have in the same plant, you are making shoes for 5 different brands as per their specifications. So that's the solution for production capacity that's available. Or you want to keep your own capacity for some top brands for yourself, and then outsource the second tier, third tier quality. So depends on how you structure it. Capacity is workforce, infrastructure, how do you locations and all that, and supplier and outsource capacity. Supplier can be part of your capacity, right? You buy raw materials, you can have some operations done at supplier's place before they come to you. You can have quality arrangements such that you don't have to re-inspect them when you receive them. So, and you can have the multi-echelon inventory, where you are using inventory and not paying for it until it comes to the sale part or comes to manufacturing parts. All those vendor-owned inventory. It also can include capacity utilization. Warehousing is a capacity part. So if you are doing VOI, vendor-owned inventory, you are actually, as a seller, as a vendor, you're using the customer's warehouse without paying rent for it. And the trade-off is that you are not being paid until they use it. So it's like you're reducing the overall supply chain costs and sharing the benefits between the vendor and manufacturer. So demand fulfillment, you're close to the market. You can do multi-echelon inventory utilizing that concept of push and pull strategy. You finish the product to a certain level, then ship to the near to the market and do the final finishing steps close to the market. That's a lot being done in terms of reshoring or backshoring. I was talking to my colleague in Germany. Danish is our colleague, and he contributes to your newsletters, articles. He was telling us that they have their product is so complicated, complex, that it crosses many shores many times before assembled finally. And that adds to cost of transportation, inspection, licenses, and custom duties and all that. So they're trying to bring back things not into the country necessarily, but are closer within Europe, the region. And a lot of that similar things are happening overall around the globe, because you want to have better control. The closer it is to you, the better communication, less damages, less lead time. So that's the capacity issue that always, keep evolving globally. That, I mean, every company wants to have low cost, but also you have to see the efficiency and the fulfillment close to market. All those factors contribute to it. So capacity is an ongoing, evolving thing. Yes, each year you have to take a fresh look and see how best we can improve it, better we can make it. Aligned with business growth, starting again with demand fulfillment, customer service, business growth, and then flexibility during fluctuations. You are dealing with product that is seasonal, or if not seasonal, it has fluctuations, demand fluctuations. How do you manage that? what capacity profile do you have to handle that situation? Decision making. So it comes to a point when you have a constraint, your first focus will be customer service. That drives cash flow. Then you can cost and capacity. Normally, capacity is the constraint, and that also requires cash flow to be able to get new capacity, hire new people, and get more equipment. Even if you want to go to third party, you have to set up contracts, have technical quality agreements, which also cost money. Again, you need cash flow. So that principle allows you to protect your revenue, sustain cash, optimize cost, and adjust capacity by utilizing, leveraging different means that you have. And it supports effective resource allocation, especially during disruptions. So companies who do these things when times are good, there's no crisis, there's no issue, those are the companies that are well positioned to sustain the weather and stride over when there is a tough situation, because they already have system in place to quickly review and adjust the plans, adjust the responses, because you have the tools, you have the mechanism, you have the communication, you have the system going already. You don't create the systems in crisis. You use the systems in crisis. To a good practice to be agile, to be up to the mark when there is no situation. So the 4C model actually helps you create a balanced integrated approach and supplies balanced supply chain resilience, adaptability, and long-term value, and creates a balanced and integrated supply chain. Uh, so it helps organizations make better decisions, prioritize effectively, and drive long-term stakeholder value. Stakeholder could be your customers, your vendor, and your employees. That's what I had to say, guys. Hope you learned something new today. Any questions, feel free.
Thank
Yes,
you so much
please.
for the lecture. I really appreciate it.
Thank
I
you.
just wanted to ask something in terms of how do we decide when to cut the cost without impacting our customer service? I mean,
Hmm. Very good question. The cost that affects customer service could be where? Could be in your the customer service happens at the last step, right? You have bought raw material, that's not
mm,
customer service unless you are a vendor. So then manufacturing, no customer service, comes to finished goods warehouse. That's where you ship to the customer. The customer service at that point affects the customer directly. That's your customer facing last step. And at that stage, if you want to save costs, you can look at delivery options, right? What size of truck is optimal, which route is optimal, last mile delivery, and do you want to keep safety stock? So, excuse me. Let's say you don't have a customer, you don't have a safety stock as of now, and your customer service level is 85%, and you want to target 95%, because that's the market and there's your competition. Then so out of 100 shipments, you want to be able to ship full quantity and on time 95 times. 5 times you can deal with alternatives and all that, but 95% you want to be on 100% on the full time and full quantity, on time full quantities. Now, for that, you might decide that, okay, because there is a gap between forecast and actual real demand, we need to buffer that with safety stock. Safety stock is a cost. So you have to justify what's the benefit of keeping safety stock. So most of the time you can simply demonstrate that your cost of getting safety stock is more than offset by increased business and customer service. So now cost cutting, depending on which area you're talking about, you can cut cost in design using alternate materials. You can cut cost in capacity. You can cut cost in deployment of people in a warehouse. You receive and ship, right? But you see, receiving starts not before Tuesday, Wednesday, because trucks start from their destination. They start arriving on Tuesday evening, and they keep arriving until late afternoon Friday. But you look at the shipping area, they start shipping right Monday morning. So if you have 10 people in each area, that 10 people crew is not doing much in the shipping area. No, they are doing a lot in shipping area, but not in receiving area. So you can have them like a flexible group of people. You can have 8 people. Sorry, 10 plus 20. 20 people is you can have 16 people, and they prioritize. They're deployed more of them in shipping Monday to through Wednesday, and then the shipping slows down. They go to receiving because now receiving is receiving more until Friday. So those techniques and are customer facing cost saving strategies. We also have that what do you call cross docking. I don't know if you use it or companies around there use it, but I think is a huge hub worldwide. All all distribution centers have this cross docking facility, most of them, where they plan the arrivals and departure in such a way, is scheduled in such a way that you don't have to empty the truck and put in the warehouse and then ship the same stuff maybe later in the day or 2 days later and bring it out, pick it up, and pack it again. So there is a cross-docking area. It's all about timing, and you use computers and software dedicated to that function that tells you what's coming in at what time and what's on the order to go. Let's say, for example, you deal with grocery items, right? Ice creams, cakes, bread, milk, eggs, you name it, all the food items and the other things that go with it, fresh fruits, packaged foods. So you receive bulk trucks carrying a truck carrying like a lot of amount of cookies and biscuits and all that. That one coming with juices, that one coming with fruits, and you have to send out a mix of these things to a certain store because they need everything. So you time in such a way that the trucks comes in with the bulk supplies, and the retail supply trucks come in the same time, and you do not store it. You just mix and match in a cross-docking area. The truck goes out to that alone. That kind of cost-saving strategy saves millions and millions on an annual basis. That's a proven thing. So there's so many things that you can look at cost-saving customer service. Make sense to you, Nader?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much, Dr. Aftab,
Yeah, very
for your
welcome. Yeah,
time,
very
for your
welcome.
lesson, for your knowledge. Thank you so much. Really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah, you're very welcome. Middle
I
East
have
is all
last
afternoon.
question, Mr. Aftab.
Yes, yes, please go ahead,
What's the
Nader.
best platform to learn from the warehouse management system WMS? Best platform for unemployed person. I want to recommend someone to learn the warehouse management system. Do you
Yeah,
have any recommendation or?
yeah. So all major training providers across the globe, like you name them, BRASI, one of them, we have courses on supply chain management, which is broader strategy and everything covered. And then we have focus programs on procurement, for example, very popular program. And then we
What is
have
it?
logistics,
Sorry.
procurement, CPCM is
Procurement.
procurement.
That's it. Okay.
But if we talk about logistics and warehousing, everybody offer that training as well. What we have is called CLWM, Certified Logistics and Warehouse Manager. So that kind of walks you through all the ins and outs of warehousing, the strategy, the efficiency, and the operation, the processes. It's a very comprehensive course. But if you can just Google that, you'll find major providers of training, global organizations. They all have this because this is a one of the major functions within supply chain, logistics and warehousing, transportation, distribution. This is the the building block. So BRASI offers CLWM. You want to take a look at that, and then you can also look around and Google it and see other. So what do you find more suitable? You will see the topics presented and the price and cost and the duration. It is a very compact 12-hour instructor-led where they offer it. Otherwise, it is self-paced. You can just go in. There are videos. There are books you can download. It's very. The learning resources are very comprehensive. And then we always have discussions where if something is not clear, you can ask an instructor and get on discussion. So it's a very well supported program, the CLWM.